Good morning, Eastside Youth. Hope you all are doing well this Sunday morning. I know it's been a while since we've been live on Sunday morning, so I'm glad that we can get back into this this week. I hope you all are doing well. I got Herm hanging out in the background over here, and Tyrone's chilling on the deal back there. So yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to give it just a couple minutes to let folks drop in here as they're able. But yeah, it's been sunny, so hopefully you guys have been able to get outside some. Yeah, good stuff. I'm excited for a little bit of sunny weather. It makes the having to stay home a little bit better, in my opinion. Gives you more activities and options to do outside for sure. So that's the exciting portion for me. Um, but yeah, hope y'all are doing well again. Like I said, oops, there we go. There, now I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's taken care of. Um, let me know in the comments if the video is doing some wild stuff, because it's doing some wild stuff like on my screen. But I tried to check it out over here and it looked like it was fine. Um, yeah. Anyway, we will give it a couple more seconds and then we will get going here. This week is, it's, if you can believe it, it's the last week in April. Also, happy Pretzel Day, everybody. Stanley's thrilled. So if you've got a way to procure a pretzel, might be able to like buy some frozen or something and have a pretzel today. National Pretzel Day. So I think normally if we'd had youth meeting tonight, we probably would have figured out a way to get some pretzels down for everyone. But unfortunately, we're still not meeting together. But I'm hoping that we will be able to do that soon. Oop. Get my stuff opened up here. Yeah, if you're just joining, just so you know, I think it says it in the description, but we're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 9 today. So 2 Kings chapter 9 is where we will be, and it'll be good. I'm excited for it. Like I said, I'm glad to be back doing it the live option. I know it's still a video when it's pre-recorded, but it's nice to have something live and do it that way just as an option. And like I said, hopefully my video is working fine. If you've been here in the past, you know that my computer is a dinosaur and often has some trouble. So we'll give it a couple more minutes, about another minute, and then we will get started for the morning. I will have more information for you guys tonight as what's going on in the week. We should have a couple of things this week. I'm hoping to either get some Jackbox or some sort of online something going, probably Friday. But yeah, looking forward to that. And it's almost May, guys. We're just a handful of days away from May. So next week, when I see you on Sunday, it will be officially May, if you can believe it. So that, yeah, that's hard for me to believe. April, in many ways, has cruised by in its own special way. But I'm really hoping that May sees some changes to all of this and that we can hopefully begin meeting back in person in May here. So prayers going up for that. I'm hopeful. But yeah, that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Good to see y'all. I saw Jess. I saw you in here. Daphne, hello. I saw you in here a little bit ago. Um, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then we'll get started for this morning. Dear God, we thank you for today. We just thank you for the chance to meet online during this time, God. I thank you that we live in a time and a place where that is possible and that's an option to us. Lord, I pray that as we look at your word this morning, that we would just be ready for it, be ready for maybe some strange stuff in history. God, I pray again for those who are sick and ill, or maybe who have family members that are at this time. God, I pray that you would give healing there and that you would help them to feel better soon. Thank you for those who are here this morning, and for those who will watch later. I just pray that this time is an encouragement to them. We love you and thank you in your name. Amen. Alrighty, guys. So like I said, we're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 9 this morning. And so a little bit of like recap. Like I said, it's been a while since we have been together live. So a recap from last week. We have been, and from the last few weeks, we have been taking a look, and there's been a considerable amount of time where we have kind of been tracing Elisha's interactions with the people of Israel. Elisha is the main prophet in Israel at this time, and we've been kind of tracing all of his interactions and his living and his interactions with the king, interactions with various people. And we've kind of taken a few weeks doing that. Like the book of Kings, 2 Kings, has for a time focused in, like laser focused in on the life of Elisha and looking at all of this stuff that he's been doing. And so now we are going to get back into kind of the old format that we saw, especially in 1 Kings, where we're looking at kings of Israel, where we have like two different kings, king of Israel, king of Judah. So just a reminder what's going on there. The nation is still divided. The 10 tribes of Israel have their king, and then the tribe of Judah, and I think it's the half tribe of Manasseh. I'm not sure on that one, or Ephraim maybe. I have to look. But the 10 plus 1, 10 and then the 1 plus the other Judah, the tribe of Judah, the people of Judah have their own kings. You have the king of Israel, king of Judah at this time. That's going to be important, and I just shared that because it's been a few weeks since we've had a serious look at that dynamic between these two kings. So yeah, we're going to jump right in here. 2 Kings chapter 9. If you're able to turn there, or just listen along as I read. 2 Kings chapter 9, starting in verse 1. It says, Then Elisha the prophet called one of the sons of the prophets and said to him, Tie up your garments and take this flask of oil in your hand and go to Ramoth Gilead. And when you arrive, look there for Jehu the son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nimshi, and go in and have him rise from among his fellows, and lead him to an inner chamber. Then take the flask of oil and pour it on his head, and say, Thus says the Lord, I anoint you king over Israel. Then open the door and flee, do not linger. So the young man, the servant of the prophet, went to Ramoth Gilead, and when he came, behold, the commanders of the army were in council, and he said, I have a word for you, O commander. And Jehu said, To which of us all? And he said, To you, O commander. So he arose and went into the house, and the young man poured the oil on his head, saying to him, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I anoint you king over the people of the Lord, over Israel. And you shall strike down the house of Ahab your master, so that I may avenge on Jezebel the blood of my servants the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of the Lord. For the whole house of Ahab shall perish, and I shall cut off from Ahab every male, bond or free, in Israel. And I will make the house of Ahab like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah. And the dogs shall eat Jezebel in the territory of Jezreel, and none shall bury her. Then he opened the door, and he fled. When Jehu came out and the servants of his master, they said, Is all well? Why did this mad fellow come to you? And he said to them, You know the fellow and his talk. And they said, That's not true. Tell us now. And he said, Thus and so he spoke to me, saying, Thus says the Lord, I anoint you king over Israel. Then in haste Every man of them took his garment and put it under him on the bare steps, and they blew the trumpet and proclaimed, Jehu is king. So in this section, Elisha tells one of the prophets, he says, go out to this guy named Jehu. He is the commander of the army, and tell him in private that he is going to be king. So let this guy know and anoint him, and then get the heck out of there. Run. Take off. Don't tarry. Tell him and get out. And so the prophet does exactly as he's told. He comes in, he tells the guy, anoints him, he says, you're going to be king, and you are going to wipe out Ahab and Jezebel and this whole mess. We're going to look at what that mess was here in a little bit. But he does that, he anoints him, and then he scoots. He gets out of there. And then the people, the guys who are with Jehu, it probably is military cohorts and stuff, are like, hey, what's this crazy guy doing here? Why is he talking to you? Is everything cool? And she was like, you guys heard, okay? Don't play dumb. And they're like, no, actually we didn't. And so Jehu tells them, and then the people, the military people, or the people around Jehu respond in such a way that indicate that they either maybe have thought that this guy should be king for some time, or that they are fed up and done with the former king, because Jehu says, yeah, he anointed me and said I was going to be king and said I was going to overthrow the system right now. And they take off their stuff and they lay it down on the steps and they toot the horns and they proclaim Jehu is king. So he's got a following now. And so we're going to continue into verse 14. It says, thus, excuse me, thus Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, conspired against Joram. Now, Joram with all Israel had been on guard at Ramoth-Gilead against Hazael, the king of Syria. But King Joram had returned to be healed of the wounds that the Syrians had given him when he fought with Hazael, king of Syria. So we read about that either last week or 2 weeks ago, where Joram and Ahaziah, they go out and they're fighting against the king of Syria. And we said there's this moment where they seem united, but they're united under doing, previously in that chapter it said what God said was not right. So Joram is trying to be healed. And so it says, Jehu said, if this is your decision, then let no one slip out of the city and go and tell the news in Jezreel. Then Jehu mounted his chariot and went to Jezreel, for Joram lay there, and Ahaziah, king of Judah, had come down to visit Joram. Now, the watchman was standing on the tower in Jezreel, and he saw the company of Jehu as he came and said, I see a company. And Joram said, take a horseman and send to meet them, and let him say, is it peace? So a man on horseback went to meet him and said, thus says the king, is it peace? And Jehu said, what do you have to do with peace? Turn around and ride behind me. And the watchman reported, saying, the messenger reached them, but he's not coming back. Then he sent out a second horseman, who came to them and said, thus the king has said, is it peace? And Jehu answered, what do you have to do with peace? Turn around and ride behind me. Again the watchman reported, he reached them, but he's not coming back. And the driving is like the driving of Jehu, the son of Nimshi, for he drives furiously. Joram said, make ready. And they made ready his chariot. Remember, this guy has already been wounded, and he is in Jezreel to be healed of those wounds. And now he says, get my chariot ready, I'm going out. Then Joram, king of Israel, and Ahaziah, king of Judah, set out, each in his chariot, and went to meet Jehu, and met him at the property of Naboth the Jezreelite. And when Joram saw Jehu, he said, is it peace, Jehu? And he answered, what peace can there be, so long as the whorings and sorceries of your mother Jezebel are so many? Then Joram reined around and fled, saying to Ahaziah, treachery, O Ahaziah. And Jehu drew his bow with his full strength, and shot Joram between the shoulders, so that the arrow pierced his heart, and he sank in his chariot. Jehu said to Bidkar his aide, Take him up and throw him in the plot of ground belonging to Naboth the Jezreelite. For remember, when you and I rode side by side behind Ahab his father, how the Lord made this pronouncement against him. As surely as I saw yesterday the blood of Naboth and the blood of his sons, declares the Lord, I will repay you on this plot of ground. Now therefore, take him up and throw him on the plot of ground in accordance with the word of the Lord. When Ahaziah the king of Judah saw this, he fled in the direction of Beth Hagan. And Jehu pursued him and said, Shoot him also. And they shot him in the chariot at the ascent of Gur, which is by Ibleam, and he fled to Megiddo and died there. His servants carried him in a chariot to Jerusalem and buried him in his tomb with his fathers in the city of David. In the 11th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, Ahaziah began to reign over Judah. All right. So there's a lot in that section. We're just trying to break it down real fast. So this scene takes place nestled inside the section from last week where Ahaziah goes to meet with Joram while he's injured in Jezreel. So remember, Joram has been injured by Hazael's men. He goes to Jezreel to be rid of his wounds. And while he is there, Jehu comes to Jezreel. He comes out and with the intention of going in and getting these two kings, Ahaziah and Joram. And then back then, so one of the things that they had security-wise were these guys called watchmen. And what they were they had these watchtowers, and they had a person who was posted up in the watchtower. They were like the first line of defense. And their job is to look out, especially on the road leading up to the town, and they watch and they see, is there like a group of traders? Is there somebody coming out looking like they're going to attack? And when they saw something, they would let the king know, and then the king would send out dispatch messages to see if they could figure out who this person was who was coming to their city. So in this, the watchman sees, and he's like, hey, there's people coming. And the king sends out a messenger, and the messenger goes out, and the king's like, you coming peacefully or what? Excuse me. And Jehu's message to them is like, dude, it's too late for peace. What do you have to do with peace? If you want peace, the only peace for you is to get in line behind me, because I'm going to this city. So the messengers, two of them do that, and then on the third time through, Joram says, okay, you know what? I'm going to go out. Because if this is Jehu, he's a commander of the army, I got to go out and see what's going on. Why is he driving this army towards the city like this? So Joram goes out, and when he talks to Jehu, they realize that Jehu is there to take over. And then Joram turns tail. He says, Ahaziah, get gone. There's treachery. And then Jehu pulls his bow himself and kills Joram. And then it says that he is dumped, his body is dumped in the field of Naboth. So if we hop back a little bit, this whole bit of Naboth, we got to go all the way back to 1 Kings 21 to see what's going on there. So Naboth was a guy who had a vineyard, and if you remember, Ahab wanted the vineyard. Naboth was like, no, I ain't giving it to you. Not happening. And so Jezebel, Ahab's, I think it's his wife, yes, has Naboth kind of murdered to steal his own property. So all of that happened way back in 1 Kings, and now in 2 Kings, it's coming full circle, and it's catching up to Ahab and Joram in this situation. So it said that Joram is shot, and his body is dumped in the field of Naboth, because back when that happened before, it said that the Lord said, hey, this is going to come back on you, and you are going to lay in the dirt on this plot of ground right here. And we see that happen in 2 Kings 9. It's fulfilled. And Ahaziah fled, and Jehu says, no, go get him. Hunt him down. But one of the differences that we see between Ahaziah and Joram is when Ahaziah is killed, his body is brought back and it is buried with his fathers in the tomb of David. Because he is the king of Judah, and there's this like sense that God is trying to uphold the covenant that he had with David. And in this sense, Ahaziah is then buried with his fathers. He's given a little bit more respectful rites in his burial than Joram is. So, with the two questionable kings of the people of God dealt with, now Jehu turns to Jezebel. Because Jezebel was the wife of Ahab, yeah. And so that is Ahaziah's mom. And so in a lot of ways, she was calling a lot of the shots and like whispering a lot of things in the king's ear about what to do. And so we're going to read what happens to her, and we're going to read why that happens to her next. Verse 30. When Jehu, when Jehu came to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her eyes and adorned her head and looked out of the window. And as Jehu entered the gate, she said, "Is it peace, you Zimri, murderer of your master?" And he lifted up his face to the window and said, "Who's on my side? Who?" 2 or 3 eunuchs looked down at him. And he said, "Throw her down." So they threw her down, and some of her blood splattered on the wall and on the horses, and they trampled her. Then he went in and ate and drank, and he said, "See now to this cursed woman and bury her, for she's a king's daughter." And when they went to bury her, they found no more of her than the skull at the feet of the palms of her hands. When they came back and told him, he said, "This is the word of the Lord which he spoke by his servant Elijah," not Elisha, before that, Elijah, the Tishbite. "In the territory of Jezreel, the dog shall eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the corpse of Jezebel shall be as dung on the face of the field in the territory of Jezreel, so that no one can say, 'This is Jezebel.'" Again, that prophecy comes to us from way back in 1 Kings. That's 1 Kings chapter 21. You want to go look at that story with Jezebel back then around Naboth's vineyard. But this is a pretty like gruesome thing that happens. Jehu comes in, Jezebel's like up in her secure place, and she's kind of taunting him. She's kind of hanging out the window like, "Hey, you're a murderer now. Like, what are you gonna do?" And Jehu calls out. He says, "Who is on my side?" And we're told that there's these 3 eunuchs. Now, eunuchs were folks who were looked at as lesser in society because they had physical impairments on their body. And they were looked at lesser in society. And it seems that Jezebel had these eunuchs in there as her servants. And when Jehu calls out, he says, "Who's on my side?" Her servants turn on her and they toss her out the window. And then the rest is pretty graphic. All that to say is she dies. And there's not enough left of her after the trampling of the horses and all this stuff. There's not enough left of her to even like have a proper burial, which Jehu did try to do. He wanted to do that, but yeah, rough times. So what did Jezebel do? We need to go back and look real quick at what Jezebel did that then leads to this like pretty terrible thing and Elijah's words that, "Hey, you're going to get got, lady." So when she married into the like kingship of Israel, she introduced pagan idol worship to the people of Israel. Now, that's bad. Like, that is bad. But we see multiple kings of Israel bring in idol worship, and they're like receive this like very specific stuff. So there's more. As a part of that, we also see how shrewd she is in dealing with Naboth and his vineyard, and some of that shrewdness carried over to the prophets because she sought to have all the prophets of the God of Israel put to death. That's one of the things she did. And that gets us that image of Elijah where he's like, am I the only one out here? Am I the only one left teaching and speaking what God has given? And so with that, many years later, all of those things, her behavior, her introduction of pagan idol worship, and the way that she treated the prophets of God, that is why she meets this death. And what's interesting is, like, it's not war that gets her, it's her own servants do it. And I think there's something to be said about that. Like, her behavior was probably not great, even to the people who were in service to her, to the point where, like, at the drop of a hat, they turn on her and they toss her. And so with this, we have the introduction to the rule and reign of Jehu. And we're going to spend a little bit of time with Jehu. Jehu is going to be at least another chapter here. We're going to spend next week looking at Jehu's reign. But I want to comment real quick before we end that Jehu's name, a lot of times these guys in the Bible have his weird names. Jehu's name literally means the Lord is he, or the Lord is the one. And as a reader, we see Jehu now, or Jehu, or however you want to say Jehu. I'm English, whatever. We as a reader, remember, we're looking for this king. And a long time ago, we thought maybe it was David, we thought maybe it was Solomon. Like, who's going to be this king that turns things around? And for a long time, it's been nothing but bad news in the area of kings for the people of Israel. And now Jehu, he shows up on the scene, he flips stuff over, he deals with some of this corruption. And I think as a reader, especially as an ancient reader looking at this, living in that time, we're holding our breath. Is he the guy? The Lord is the one. Is Jehu the one that's going to get back on track? And that is kind of the sense that we're left with at the end of 2 Kings 9, moving into the rest of the book. That is 2 Kings 9. Thank you guys for joining us this morning. We will see you again tonight at 5 for the youth group stuff. We will be continuing in the book of Numbers, our second lesson in Numbers. So if you have not yet been able to check out our first kind of overview of Numbers, feel free to do that. It's out there. It's on YouTube and on the Facebook page and stuff. So, but yeah, thanks for being here. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. Stay healthy. Stay hopeful. We'll see you soon.